Hey there, what is going on? And it's Rob from Crypto Bobby, and today there is really big news in the cryptocurrency space, specifically around China and potentially suspending all ICOs within China, and it's really impacting the price so far of NEO. So I want to talk about that. Literally has happened within the past hour or so. Before I even took a shower this morning, before I pretty much did anything, coming up and trying to take this video for you and walk through that. Also want to talk about Ethereum's nice continued rise. I've spoken about it before. I'm going to talk about it again. Ethereum is having a really nice rise, and I think it's going to continue to do so. So let's get into it. If you weren't aware, and this happened pretty recently, literally within the past hour or so, but here on Cointelegraph, China is potentially suspending all ICOs in the future here, and I'll link to this in the description below. But essentially what's happening is the People's Bank of China has reportedly considered just a blanket ban of ICOs. They're going to be doing a little bit more due diligence as far as the regulators are going to be doing a little bit more due diligence to determine if they need to put in a specific ban on ICOs and, what type of requirements are going to be surrounding ICOs. And apparently, outside of just the general ICO craze, there have been China itself has been really kind of pumped and jacked up about these ICOs. I've been reading a lot of different things about these cryptocurrency companies going on these roadshows in China and having, basically selling out every venue that they're at, as far as, filling a packed house, presenting their product, presenting the ICO, and that's become a huge hit in China. So it's not necessarily a huge surprise that regulators are now looking at this and examining whether or not they should suspend it. And as of right now, it does look like there's a pretty significant risk of this just blanket ban on ICOs, on new ICOs, and I'm not sure how that might affect existing ICOs as well. So really not too great of news. The United States and then Canada actually, has released some information specifically in regards to ICOs, but for the most part, it's been not necessarily extremely positive, but it hasn't been to the sense of we're going to completely blanket this. It's essentially just saying, hey, you need to be aware of the issues. You need to be aware of what might be going on with these ICOs, that there can be some nefarious activities with this, but for the most part, we're looking to keep investors informed and make sure there is proper regulations in place. But there's been no talk of a ban by the United States or by Canada, or for the most part by any other countries. So this news is hitting pretty hard, and specifically it's hitting NEO hard. And the reason it's hitting NEO hard is because NEO, as a lot of people know, outside of the technicals and the fundamentals behind NEO, pretty much all most people can describe NEO as is the Ethereum of China. And if you want to be Ethereum, one of the big kind of proponent, or one of the big features of Ethereum is the ability to launch ERC20 tokens, the ability to have ICOs built off the platform, and allow new tokens and basically new companies and products to come into existence. NEO is trying to be that Ethereum specifically for China, and that's great news. Good for NEO. And I personally, I bought NEO at $6 USD. I sold it around 38 about a week or two ago. Put it all into Ethereum, so I'm not, just for full transparency, I'm not holding NEO now. I was fairly positive. I don't know how this news is going to kind of affect my outlook, but if we're looking at the price action here on Coinigy, obviously it's not great. Within the past, let's say, hour and a half, NEO has gone from $38 and then had a crazy sell-off down to 28 bucks, and has since, within the past 30 minutes ago, had a little bit of stabilization back up to 33. But even if we're talking about, let's take a quick look from a measurement perspective. So NEO dropped about 28 percentage points, 26 percentage points over the course of an hour, and is now down close to 12% since the news with the stabilization. So if you are holding NEO, it's definitely something you want to be aware of as this continues. How this can affect your investment, because obviously it's down quite a bit, and I think a lot of the utility of NEO, if China isn't allowing for ICOs, then a lot of the utility of, if China doesn't allow for ICOs, if they put a blanket statement on ICOs that says you can't have ICOs in China, you can't utilize ICOs in China, then pretty much the mass utility of NEO goes out the window. And it goes from being the Ethereum of China to a cryptocurrency that the main country it was supposed to be utilized in you can't use, and that's going to really impact the price. You can see it right now. There's basically a couple different articles and some things on Twitter have pretty much just popped the price off. So if you are holding NEO, I would definitely look closely at that. I don't know if this is going to be a continued sell-off. I don't know if China is actually going to ban ICOs, put a blanket ban or not. This could potentially be a buying opportunity, or this could potentially be the start of a greater market crash for NEO. And you could see it down in the, like we looked about, down in the 20s, down much lower. Personally, I am happy that I sold NEO when I did. This is going to be a pretty stressful time if you are holding it, because I think the price action within the next day or so is going to be pretty crazy. And I think there are going to be some pretty violent swings until people figure out what China's deal is. And if the ICOs are banned, I think that's generally a negative. That's going to be a negative trend for the rest of the cryptocurrency space as well. But China is usually one to regulate pretty heavily from a technical standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects it. If you are holding NEO, like I said, I would just keep a firm eye on this to make sure that you're protected, because right now, like I said, we are down from the kind of averages within the past. We're down about 12% down from $39, $38 about an hour or two ago, down all the way to $34 down now. And you can see that sell volume here. And it looks like a little bit of stabilization, but that could easily, as more news starts to get out and kind of more things get out, that could easily drop quite a bit. So I wanted to put this video together. So if you are holding NEO, if you're considering it, or whatever it might be, you're as informed as possible. And I think that's important, obviously. Now, outside of NEO today, too, one of the things I did want to talk about was the kind of continued rise of Ethereum. I think this has been nice to see, in addition to obviously Litecoin doing very well, but Ethereum for the most part, minus the last kind of hour and a half or so, but Ethereum has had this nice rise up from 350 yesterday. It had a lot of resistance at the 350 mark and had since broke above 350 all the way up to 366, and is now at a little bit of a sell-off above 360. I think some people are taking some profits here, but for the most part, this has been a really good, encouraging move. If we're looking at essentially even from the 350 mark, right now, with where things are, it's still a solid 3% move for a pretty large scale cryptocurrency. And if you're looking at within almost the, let's say the last day, within the last day or so, moving from 340 all the way up to 360, that's a pretty solid. We're talking about a nice solid 5%, and this has been over the course of the past month, really consistently moving and moving and moving. If we look at this month chart right now, you can see a pretty steady increase. Obviously, there's been a little bit of some small sell-offs here and there, but for the most part, Ethereum, if you've been holding that for the past month, I'm really positive about it. I continue to be positive about it, and I'm looking at ways to potentially increase my holdings a little bit more within Ethereum, because I do think it's going to push that 400 mark in the coming weeks as we get closer and closer to these technical advancements. I think the one thing to keep an eye on as well here, though, is depending upon things with China, does that also, outside of NEO, obviously Ethereum has ICOs in China. Is that going to significantly affect Ethereum's price as well? Potentially not, since really the value proposition of Ethereum isn't just China. So that'll be interesting to see kind of how that moves forward. But for now, I do remain really positive on Ethereum. I think it's in a really good place, and we're going to continue to see an upward movement there. So I've been kind of batting down the doors for Ethereum for the past, anybody who watches my channel right now, I've been saying since really 300 or so that I think we're in a good place, and I think we're going to continue to move up. And that's been a really, really nice move, and I've been encouraged by it. And it looks, even in the past couple day or so, it's had a nice movement against Bitcoin as well, which has been good to see because Ethereum has typically followed Bitcoin for the most part. At least in the past day or so, it had this kind of nice movement up. It's since corrected quite a bit on top of from Bitcoin, but for the most part, this has been a really nice movement. As we're looking at this, kind of how this is developed. So been glad to see that in a lot of cases, and how this has kind of been able to stabilize a little bit. But really the big news on the day, as I said, is going to be how this ICO suspension, how this potential ban of ICOs in China is able to affects the price of NEO, affects the price of Ethereum, affects the price of a lot of things. And if people start just taking, if you got in early on NEO, are people going to start taking profits? Are people going to run out of that? I myself have already taken my profits within NEO, but I'd imagine a lot of people that are not holding the bags yet and are not underwater might be looking to just liquidate those positions. So, if you are holding NEO, just be aware, keep an eye on the market today because it's probably going to get a little crazy. And if you're really confident in NEO, depending upon what happens here, this could be a buying opportunity. If this price goes down, like it went down within an hour, 28%, that could be an opportunity for you to, buy, make it maybe a quick day trade, or alternatively, if you're a long-term believer and you've wanted to get into NEO but just haven't felt comfortable about the rise over the past month or so, this might be your opportunity, so keep that in mind. As for anything else here, one of the big things I do want to mention too is if you're not on Twitter and following a lot of these people on Twitter, this is a great place to, it is a great place to get some fantastic news. My Twitter handle, I'll link to it as well, crypto_Bobby. Some jackass out there has crypto Bobby, so I had to throw in the underscore. But like I said, this is a really good place, and I try to just tweet what's going on as much as possible. Some potential Will Ferrell gifts here and there, but outside of that, just try to keep as much an eye on what's happening in the space. And this is where I initially found what was going on with NEO, and you could see here, Charlie Lee retweeted the article about the ICOs in China. Whale Panda, another interesting person. 2 hours ago, really, when this 2 hours ago, right about when this NEO crash started, tweeted, NEO is marketed as Chinese Ethereum. These ICOs in crypto, we say wrecked. It wasn't even going, it was like about to go down. If you're following these people on Twitter, I'm not going to say you have to follow myself because I am the deliverer of all news, but there's a lot of useful content you can get from a lot of people. So I would recommend going on Twitter and starting to follow a lot of these people in the crypto space, because it does give you not necessarily a first mover advantage. I mean, if you're getting information from somebody else, you don't always have it first. But for the most part, when Whale Panda tweeted this, you could have sold your NEO, and if you had NEO, you could have sold your NEO and not lost as much as the market's gone down, whatever. So I think that's important to say and important to consider. So outside of that, if you are new to the channel, I really do appreciate the time. Rob from Crypto Bobby, hit the subscribe button. That would be fantastic. I come with daily crypto videos on whatever's happening in the market, just so that you're aware and just so you know. And then outside of that, I typically do a live stream happy hour once, probably 2 or 3 times a week, where I just kind of sit back, shoot the shit, drink some beers with you guys. But again, Rob from Crypto Bobby, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day buying, trading, holding, selling, whatever it is you're doing in the crypto world. I wish you the best of luck. Have a good one. Peace.